Zion. A woman was having a difficult labor and she was moved from one house to another. The first house is tummy because of doubt, and the second house is certainly tummy. Rabbi Yehuda said, when did this apply? In a situation in which she walked with assistance, but when she was able to walk without assistance, the first womb is tahor because once the womb is open, it's impossible to walk. A stillborn child does not open the womb unless his head is round like the size of a world. And the first baby was born dead and the second alive. The living baby is tahor. The first baby was alive and the second dead. The living baby is tummy. Maya says if they are in one fetal sac, the living baby becomes tummy. However, if they are in two fetal sacs, the living baby is tahor. A woman is having a difficult labor. The offspring is dismembered inside her and removed limb by limb because her life takes precedence over his life. But if most of the baby has emerged, one may not harm him because one may not push aside one life for another. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Chris. Yes, maybe es hatuma v'chotzatin. Okay. So we're going to go through various different types of things that are screens or not screens. So there are things that both spread tuma and block against tuma. Okay, maybe in tuma v'lo there are things that spread tuma but don't block it. Chotzatin v'lo mevim. Some things block it and don't spread it. Lo mevim v'lo chotzatin, and things that are completely invisible, don't spread and don't block. So now our normal case is of most things in the world that both function as an ohel, both to spread and to block tuma. Hashida teva migdal kaveres akash kaveres akanim, these large kalim, bor sfina alexandris sheyesh lehen shulaim, and some sort of pit in an Alexandrian ship that has a base. And they hold the minimum measure, that 40 sa'ah, which we said is what turns them from kalim into ohalos, is that they can't be moved while they are in use, while they're full. Okay, they're too heavy, so they lose their susceptibility to tumah themselves. Okay, shehem korayim biyavesh. Okay, so that the 40 sa'ah is wet measure, and which is 2 kores and 1 dry measure. Okay, so all of those things both function as an ohel in every respect. V'yiria uskurtia katavulia v'sadinu mapet machatzeles. So all of these things are basically pieces of cloth of some sort. Now, normally cloth, if you just cloth is susceptible to tumah, and therefore you would say, okay, how can it possibly screen if it itself is susceptible to tumah? But why? She'en asuyin ohalin, when they are actually being stretched out and used as a tent. So when they're being used as a tent, then they are an ohel because they provide shelter. Okay, the difference is that as a tent, both screens and blocks, but the fabric will also become tameh, as we saw before, that if you touch the outside, then you get evening tumah, etc. Okay, so in ohelim, the eider behema tameh utahora, or an entire flock of animals, whether the tameh or tahor. So this is when they're like very pressed together. So, for example, if you have 3 cows standing right next to each other, okay, that's going to make an ohel. So if there's tumah underneath them, then everything underneath them becomes tameh, and everything on top of them is blocked. So live animals themselves are not susceptible to tumah, so therefore they cannot they can act as an ohel. Okay. Mechonos chayav off, or also the wings of or the mechonos is a kine. Any kind of nests of birds.
Nest of birds, a bird that is resting. The one makes
right.
sun.
Also, if a woman is working out in the fields and she takes a bunch of sheaves of wheat and she builds a kind of an ohel for them just to shade her son in the field, just a temporary thing to put some shade underneath it, that is considered an ohel, and both block spreads and screens. Okay. Aeros vakisos, these are types of plants, with yirakos chamor, plants with big leaves, or delas ivanis, and even tahor foods. So foods, let's say food that was fruit that was plucked in the field and hasn't yet become wet. So let's talk about a watermelon. You get a big watermelon, and it has never become wet, and you prop it up over a chair or something like that, and then whatever's underneath it is then it's still it makes an ohel, and it blocks tumah from above it as well, as long as it's impervious to tumah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri lo haya modeh be'ochelim toharim. He doesn't agree with this thing about ochelim. Chutz min ha'igul shel dvela, except maybe a pressed fig cake, which is possible to make without making it susceptible if you just use fruit juice to make it bind. Okay, so it never became wet. All that used was the fruit juice itself to bind it into a big cake. And that, he says, is something that could be used as a shelter, but other fruits is just like not a realistic thing to use as a shelter. However, the halacha follows the Tanna Kama. Carrying on the list in Mishnah base, Hazizin v'gizros v'shovachos. So basically projections coming out from a wall. Gizrios is like a balcony. Shavach is a dovecote. A shakif is a hole in the rock. So basically a natural cave of some sort, or salayim, or a natural bedrocks. Okay, geharim, how do we translate that? Is a cave. Shananim is the sharp parts of a rock. Schachos, which is basically projecting leaves from a large tree, which are strong enough that you could put a bit of plaster on them and hold them in place, says Rabbi Meir. In other words, they're rigid.
Right.
Okay. The Chachamim say the bar for branches is much higher, in order to screen as well. Okay. What are these called? Ilan shehu meisech al aretz, v'praos ayotzos min hagader. So schachos, the things are branches that extend from the tree that go down towards the ground. V'praos, and what we call the praos is something that is stones or even branches that come out from the fence. So you could have like trees like you have in the kotel, with branches actually taking root inside, shrubs actually taking root inside the wall and pushing out. So that's what's called a prout. So all of these things are the things that function as an ohel in every respect. Mishnah Gimel starts with Elu Mevim V'lo Chotzitzin. So these are the things that spread tumah but don't block it. Okay. For example,
just did this one.
No, we didn't.
No, I mean, it's the same.
It's almost the same, but it's slightly different. Hashida teva v'migdal kaveres akash kaveres akanim u'borsvin Alexandris she'ein lahem shalayim. If it doesn't have a proper base, in other words, it can't stand by itself. Ve'einan machzikim arba'im sa'aba lach she'em korayim biyavesh. They are less than that large measure. So now, what does that do? If they don't have that large measure, then they are considered kalim. Once they're considered kalim, they themselves are susceptible to tumah and cannot function as an ohel to screen tumah. Okay, but they do nonetheless act as an ohel to spread the tumah. So you get the worst of both worlds. Okay, this is they'll spread tumah, but they won't block it. Okay. All these pieces of cloth of different sorts, whether they're garments or curtains or whatever they are, if they haven't been converted into a tent. So you just happen to be taking your tablecloth and flapping it out in the you flap it out on the outside to get rid of the breadcrumbs, and it goes over a piece of tumah. So what it did do was it spread the tumah, but it didn't block the tumah from anything above it while it was out there. So even if you got two people who are holding it out, stretching it, preparing for to fold it, that's not going to screen any tumah. It's not made like an ohel. It's not made like an actual tent. Okay, she'enan nasuin ohalin. Uvehema v'chaya shemesu, dead animals. Okay, if you have a dead animal, it itself is susceptible to tumah because it's now tumas nevela, tumas ochlin, whatever sort of tumah it is, and therefore they can spread the tumah, but they cannot block it. Ochlim tameim, or any kind of tamei foods, or tamei also means susceptible to tumah. So let's take your pressed fig cake. Let's say it became susceptible to tumah, and it acted as it was held over something. So that will spread the tumah but not block it. Musaf aleihem harechayim shal adam. And furthermore, there's also a hand mill. So you've got these little hand mills that you do by hand, so for doing small quantities of grain. So they moved from place to place, and therefore, since they move from place to place, they cannot act as a partition. But a large mill that is operated by a behemoth or by machinery, which are very heavy, they can be picked up. Those can be a chatzitza as well for the tumah because they're not makabel tumah because they can't be moved. Okay, and that's it for today.
We have Daled Gimel.
Gimel Zayin. No, did I not move my bookmark or something? Hold on, let me just check if I didn't move my bookmark.
Am I right?
I've got Gimel, yeah, Gimel Zayin.
Oh, so I moved it I moved too fast. Okay. Okay. A cavity, 1 handbreadth by 1 handbreadth square that is 1 handbreadth high, conveys tumah and acts as a barrier against tumah. How so? In the case of a sewer beneath a house that contains a cubic handbreadth and has an outlet of a square handbreadth, if there is tumah inside the sewer, the house remains tahor. But if there's tumah in the house, whatever is in the house, sewer remains tahor, because it's the way of the tumah to exit but not to enter. In the case where the sewer contains a cubic handbreadth and its outlet is smaller than a square handbreadth, if there is tumah inside the sewer, the house becomes tumah. If there is tumah in the house, whatever is inside the sewer remains tahor because it is the way of tumah to exit but not the way to enter. In the case where the sewer is smaller than a cubic handbreadth and the outlet is smaller than a square handbreadth, if there is tumah in the side, the sewer, the house becomes tumah. If there is tumah in the house, whatever is inside the sewer becomes tumah. This law is true whether the hole was hollowed out by water, by small animals, or erosion, and it's also true it is formed by a pile of boulders and a stack of beams. Rabbi Huda says any roof that is not man-made is not considered an ohel. However, he agrees with respect to crags and projecting rock formations that are considered olim. If a cabinet is standing in the open air and the tumah is inside the utensils inside the sides, it remains tahor. If tumah is inside its sides, the utensils, the cabinet remains tahor, and Rabbi Yossi says half and half. If the cabinet is standing inside a house and tumah is inside the cabinet, the house becomes tameh. If tumah is inside the house, whatever is inside the cabinet remains tahor because it is the way of tumah to exit, but not the way to enter. In a case where there's utensils beside the cabinet and on the ground, the wall, or the ceiling beams, if there is a space of 1 handbreadth, they are tameh, and if not, they are tahor. If tumah is there, the house becomes tameh. A drawer of a cabinet contains a cubic handbreadth of every space and has an opening smaller than a square handbreadth. If there is tumah inside the drawer, the house becomes tameh. If there is tumah inside the house, whatever is inside the drawer remains tahor, because what is in the way of the tumah to exit, but not the way to enter. Reb Yossi rules that the house is tameh because one can remove the tumah in halves and burn it in its place. Okay. Halem.
Halem.
Okay. Olive. There are 3 shields. A bench shield is susceptible to becoming tummy with midrash tuma. A shield that is which combatants play on the sporting grounds is susceptible to becoming tummy with corpse tuma. And the play shield of Arabs is tahor from any form of tuma. There are 3 wagons. A wagon made like the Gadara is susceptible to becoming tummy with midrash tuma. A wagon made like a bed is susceptible to becoming tummy with corpse tuma. And a wagon made for the transportation of stones is tahor from any form of tuma. There are three troughs. A trough with a capacity of between 2 logs and 9 cobs that develop the cracks and susceptible to becoming tameh with midrash tuma. An intact trough is then susceptible to becoming tameh with corpse tuma, and the trough of great proportions also is of tahor from any form of tuma. Me'ilah. Hey, regarding one who deposits money with a money changer, if the money is tied, the money changer may not use it. Therefore, if the money changer spends the money, he has committed the me'ilah. If this money is loose, the money changer may use it. Therefore, if the money changer spends the money, he has not committed me'ilah. Um, if the money is deposited with a householder, whether tied or loose, it may not use it. Therefore, if he is capable, spends the money, he has committed me'ilah. The storekeeper is likened to a householder, and these are the words of Me'ilah. Rabbi Yehuda says the storekeeper is likened to a money changer. Regarding a consecrated pruta that fell into a purse, or if the owner said the pruta is in the purse, shall be consecrated. Then, as soon as he spends the first pruta, he has committed me'ilah. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. The Talmud say he does not commit me'ilah until he spends the entire purse. Rabbi Akiva agrees regarding one who said, excuse me, a proof of this purse shall be consecrated that he may spend and continue to spend the money until he spends the entire purse.
Tamid.
Tomorrow we have, I'm sorry?
Today we're doing the first mission of Tamid.
I didn't know that. Okay. Did you say that yesterday?
I didn't actually, but I did say that we were doing Tamid next.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. Um, the Kohanim would stay and guard in three places in the holy temple and the chamber of Avitinus. In the chamber of the ray and the hall of the fire. The chamber of Avitinus and the chamber of the ray were upper stories, and the youngsters would guard there. The hall of the fire was a dome, and it was a large house circled with ledges of stone. And the elders of the base would sleep there, and the keys of the courtyard were in their hands. And the young Kohen would sleep with each on his pillow on the ground. They would sleep in their holy vestments rather than they remove them, and they fold them and place them beneath their heads. And then they would cover themselves with their personal garments. If one of the Kohanim experienced a seminal mission, he would exit the hall of fire, proceed through the tunnel that went under the bier, and then lamps were burning there and there, here and there, until he reached the immersion room. A large fire was there, as well as a latrine of dignity. If this was its dignity. If one found it closed, he knew there was a person there. If he found it open, he knew that there was no person there. He descended and immersed, ascended, dried himself off, and warmed himself in front of a large fire. He came and sat next to his fellow Kohanim until the gates were open, and he departed and went on his way. One who wishes to separate some ash from the altar may rise early and immerses before the appointed Kohen arrived. Now, at what time did the appointed Kohen arrive? Not all the arrival times are the same. At times he would arrive at the rooster's cry, close to it, either before or after it. The appointed one would arrive and knock on the temple gates, and they were opened for him. Then he said to them, "Whoever has immersed, come and participate in the lottery." They held the lottery.
Just a second. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we've got the. We were only meant to do one Mishna over there. I lost. I'm busy translating all the time that you're doing, but we were only meant to do one Mishna. So tomorrow start with base.
Adios.
Yeah.
Adios. Okay, here we go. If someone declared materials of low duration, completed his term in the nearest, and then came to the Holy Land, by Shammai say he must be in the zero for 30 days, but Shammai says he must be in the zero from the beginning. Someone about whom two groups of witnesses were testifying, they testified that he declared 2 terms of the Naziris, and then testified that he declared 5 terms of the Naziris. Then Shammai says the testimony is split, and there is no Naziris here. Hillel says 2 is included in 5, so he's in the 0 for 2 terms. If a person is lying under a gap, Beis Shammai says he does not spread tumah, but Beis Hillel says if a person is hollow, then the upper side of his body does spread tumah.
Yeah, we're going to learn that soon in Ohalos.
Rabbi Yehuda says 6 matters are among the lenient decisions of Beis Shammai and the stringent decisions of Beis Hillel. The blood of the nevelas, Rabbi Shammai Rutahua, and Beis Hillel says it's tamei. And egg found in a nevela, if there is similar eggs, this one being sold in the market is permitted. If not, it is forbidden. According to the words of Beis Shammai, however, Beis Hillel forbid it. But Beis Shammai considered the egg is a treifa, if forbidden because it developed into a forbidden state. Uterine blood of a Gentile woman and Torah blood of a Mazoris after childbirth. Beis Shammai made both tahor. Beis Hillel says her blood is like the spittle and like her urine. One may eat shemitah produce in gratitude, with gratitude and without gratitude, according to the words of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says one may not eat produce without gratitude. Leather jug, Beis Shammai says if it remains closed, The Beis Hillel says even though it was does not remain closed. Right. Okay. That's it. Okay. And we are that's it. No.
That's it. Yes. Okay.
Right. On to over here.
Moed cotton.
Okay. Yes. We may set up oven,
Good.
stove, and mill.
Yud.
Excuse me.
Yud.
Oh, sorry. We may build a railing for a roof or a balcony in an unskilled manner, but not in a professional manner. We may replaster the cracks and hold them as if they were with a roller, if they with the hand and the foot, but not with the trowel. A hinge or a socket may be, or a beam or a rod lock or a key that broke may be repaired during Kol Moed, provided that one does not plan his work for Kol Moed. All pickled foods that can be eaten during the festival may be pickled during Kol Moed. All right. One who had turned all over his olives to roll off from them, and then his mourning befell him, or an accident befell him, or his workers misled him, may place the first beam and leave it until after the festival. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says he may pour the olives into the press and complete the process and seal the barrels in the usual manner. Similarly, one whose wine was in the vat and then mourning befell him, if for an accident befell him or his workers who led him, may pour the wine into barrels completely, completed processing and seal the barrels in the usual manner. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. And Rabbi Yehuda says he may cover the barrel with boards so that the wine does not sour. And lamp, lie. Okay, Kalayim.
Yes.
Rob.
Hey, hey.
Hey, rather, hey, no problem. One may plant a cucumber in a gourd in a hollow, provided this leans to one side and the other leans to the other side. The tips of the leaves of one lean to one side and the tips of the leaves of the other side, because wherever the cucumber forbade is created only on account of appearances. If this field was sown with onions and he wishes to plant in rows of gourds, Rabbi Yisrael says his uproots two rows and plants one row and leaves a standing crop of onions over the space of two rows and uproots two rows and plants one row. Rabbi Akiva says he uproots two rows and plants two rows and leaves a standing crop of onions over the space of two rows and uproots two rows and plants two rows. But we can come and say if there are not 12 cubits between each row and the one row and the other, he may not maintain the seeds between them. And we have gourd and vegetables. Gourd is a vegetable, but in grain it is given a beit rova. If one's field was sown with grain and wished to plant it in a row of gourds, he is given 6 hairbreadths to tending it. If he grew, he must uproot in front of him. And Rabbi says he is given 4 cubits to tend it. And then he said to him, do not treat them more stringently than vine. He said to them, we find this to be more stringent than vine, which says a single vine is given 6 handbreadths to tend, but a single gourd is given a beit rova. But Meir says in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, whenever there are 3 gourds in a bet saw, you may not bring into bet saw any seed. Yossi ben Hakotef Ephrati said in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, wherever there are 3 gourds in a base core, he may not bring them into a base core any seed.
Okay, we're done and have a wonderful Shabbos.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a great time.
Cheers.
Bye.